Hi everyone, it's Danielle with North Lawn Flower Farms. In today's video, I want to talk all about hardy annuals. What is a hardy annual, when to plant hardy annuals, and then give you a little tour of my garden here in 6B. It's March 19th, and you can see some of these hardy annuals that have made it all the way as baby plants through the winter. You can see what they look like now, and then I also have some really great footage from back in May when these guys were all blooming, just to show you that this does work and you really should give it a try, especially if you're itching to get your hands out in the soil when normally we would just be sitting inside planting. Hardy annuals are a great thing to know about. So what is a hardy annual? Well, it's an annual, meaning that its whole purpose is to grow, set flower, and produce seed, set that seed into the ground, and then die. But unlike a lot of annuals that we're used to working with, like zinnias and sunflowers, these annuals have a different life cycle timeline, meaning their seed falls in the early fall. It starts to grow in the fall. Then these plants overwinter as baby plants in the winter, and then they set flower in very early spring. So if you're a flower farmer and you need flowers in late April and early May, definitely think about giving hardy annuals a try, because wow, they just add so much profit to the stand. And you know what? It's just so therapeutic to get out there and garden in a lot of seasons when we feel like we can't. You can. Okay, so let's talk about when to plant hardy annuals, because it's totally different than when we're going to plant tender annuals, meaning warm season annuals. These are cool season annuals. So you need to know, when is your first frost date in the fall, and when is your last expected frost date in the spring. Then you want to count back 6 to 8 weeks from those dates. That's the date that we are going to plant hardy annuals outside. And if you want to get an even jump start on that and start them inside under lights, which I can show you mine as well, you need to count back another 6 weeks. So if that sounds a little confusing, let me give you an example. I'm here in zone 6B and it's about to be spring. So our last expected frost date here is April 14th. I need to count back 6 to 8 weeks before that. So just generalizing, that's basically very early March. But I prefer to set out plants that are already established. So I need to count back another 6 to 8 weeks, meaning all the way to the very beginning of February, even late January, in order to start those seeds inside, get them under lights, get them where they have at least 3 sets of true leaves. That way, when mid-March comes around, 6 weeks before my last expected frost, I can set these guys out into the garden like you see behind me. So that would be spring planting. But overwhelmingly, I have found personally that a fall planting produces stronger plants, more flowers, and they definitely bloom earlier than spring planted hardy annuals. Now, it's kind of too late for that this year, but just something to think about for next year. So in that case, say, our first expected frost is maybe, let's say, November 14th. I need to count back 6 weeks before that. That's putting me at the beginning of October. I'm going to sow those seeds directly in the ground at that point, so that they can go ahead and grow on to an immature plant. They're going to winter over, and yes, they're going to get a whole bunch of snow on them. They're going to freeze, but I promise you, they will be okay. This is how God designed these plants, and you can trust me, I'm going to show you around some that they've been going like this for years and years and years. This method really does work. So what are some hardy annuals? There's really a long list. I can put it in the description below, but I'll tell you the ones that I grow here that I've had really great success with. The ones that I like to direct sow in the fall, I don't bother to start them under lights, I direct sow the seed in the fall, is Larkspur, Bachelors Buttons, Lavender Mist, Dill will work. Sometimes it's right there on the edge. I think it's really more cold hardy to a 7, but I've always had it work for me. And the things that I'm going to start under lights, in very early February, which, I can show you, are Strawflower, Ammi, Foxglove, I like to start under lights really, really early, and I actually have those planted out already. Sweet peas, Snapdragons, the list, Bells of Ireland, the list goes on and on. So rather than try to think of it off the top of my head, I'll go ahead and put it in the description below, all the hardy annuals that are out there. But really, if you can do a fall planting, like I say, you get a lot stronger plant, they bloom earlier, and they put on more blooms. And they're just blooming longer. It's just a good idea to do that. So I hope that made sense. If you have any questions, just put them in the comment section below and I'll answer them. So now let's go around my garden. Like I said, it's March 19th, and let me show you what these hardy annuals look like right now. Alright, so we can just start here at the entrance to the garden, and I hope I'm not going to miss anything. Now just a reminder, all these things were planted in the fall. Either I planted the seed myself, or I've been doing this for so many years now that they've set the seed down for me at this point. And I'll try to point that out, which happened. So you can see this whole area is planted with cornflowers. Yep, those aren't weeds, those are cornflowers. And I do need to divide them so that they're spaced, you know, more evenly. I like to go about 9 inches apart on all these. It's been too wet for me to do any divisions as of yet, but look how strong and healthy they are. And they've gotten snow, they've gotten freezing temperatures over and over and over again, and they're perfectly fine. And they just set down seed for me. You know, I planted them once about 4 years ago, and now they just scatter their seed, and I just go ahead and space them appropriately when the weather allows me to. Okay, back here we've got foxgloves. These I started inside under lights very early, started them in January. They were ready to go out. Well, when did I put them out? I think about a week ago. And they'll be perfectly fine. We are expecting to get snow later in the week, and it's going to dip down to 28. These guys are going to be fine. They've been hardened off. They're ready to take it. Back on all these trellises, I'm not going to try to zoom in, we'll go way out of focus, but there's sweet peas up every single trellis you see. Okay, here we have larkspur. You know, what's also fun about growing things from seed is you get really familiar with what plants look like in their immature stages, and I just find that really rewarding. Okay, we'll travel along here. Don't mind the weeds. Like I say, it's been so wet, I haven't been able to do any work. Now look at these snapdragons. These are last year's snapdragons. They didn't even die. Now I'm going to set out a whole new flat of snapdragons, but see, just to show you, they can survive, you know, the cold. And I wouldn't advise planting snapdragons in the fall. I would advise waiting on them until spring, at least if you are in my zone, zone 6B. But look, this year they did winter over. Okay, more sweet peas up this trellis. Here you can see yarrow. Yarrow is a perennial, but a lot of times flower farmers will plant it as an annual. Okay, we'll travel along. Oh, don't want to miss these guys. Here we have a whole bunch of Love in a Mist. Let me see if I can get in closer. Love in a Mist looks pretty similar to larkspur when it's, you know, when in its really infantile stages, but if you give this a couple more weeks, you'll see that its leaf structure is a lot more spread out, a lot more carrot-like than the larkspur. So I have that Love in a Mist there. Love in a Mist also, you know, all in here. We have it. Okay. I have more Bachelors Buttons back there. And I really need to get to weeding, but like I say, what am I going to do? Oh, goodness. Hopefully it dries up for a little bit. Sweet peas around all these trellises. Let's go back to where I was talking to you from. Sorry, hopefully I'm not jostling the camera too much for you. And you can see these spaced more appropriately. These here are larkspur, and in the front, Love in a Mist. Can you see the difference? Love in a Mist. Let me get a good larkspur here for you. What background? Can you see the difference? I like to space these guys about 9 by 9. Okay, let me show you some Feverfew I have. I think I forgot to mention Feverfew in the initial video, but that's always a winner. And maybe you're familiar with Feverfew as a perennial, but I like to plant it as an annual. I find it makes a better cut flower, planted fresh in the fall each year. So these are fall plantings. I planted these. These did not fall themselves. Look at these healthy, robust plants, you know, ready to produce flowers for me. You want a close up on these? Here we have our Feverfew. Can anybody ID this guy? It's columbine. I scattered those seeds in the fall. Here they are. They are biennial, but I scatter those seeds constantly, all the time. I'm scattering columbine. Okay, we can head over to what I like to call the driveway garden. And I apologize for the noise, like you may know we're on a main road. But we're thankful for that because it makes it really nice for selling cut flowers. This whole bed is larkspur. This is where my cool flowers adventure started. Scattering a packet. I have a big blue larkspur in this area. Now the larkspur's taken over. I take divisions from it. I put it wherever I want it. But you can see, here it is. Maybe it's helpful if you watch my winter garden tour. You can see that, yes, we do get snow here in zone 6B. You know, it's freezing. And guys, it really works. Okay, let's go inside and I'll show you my lights. So here we are inside now. And this is the flat of straw flowers that I sowed about 4 weeks ago. It's probably only going to be about 1 more week until I put them out and I start to harden them off. But you see, I started these in early February because I want them to go out in basically late March was my goal, and they're looking on track for that. I've also got some Bells of Ireland going on. I have had a hard time with Bells of Ireland over the years as far as germination goes. Personally, I do not like to sow them directly into the garden. I know some flower farmers do, but I don't know what happens to mine. But from now on, the last couple of years, I start them under lights. Over here we have some Dara. It's a member of the carrot family. It gets a flower that looks like Queen Anne's lace, but it's purple. It's really beautiful. That's going to stay under the lights a little bit longer than my Strawflower, but once again, it's a hardy annual. It can go out 6 to 8 weeks before the last expected frost. So since we saw what the hardy annuals look like out in my garden in March, now let's fast forward to May. This is mid-May 2019, and here we are at my pink Bachelors Buttons. And these, as I said, have been fall sown for many years now. At this point, they just drop the seed themselves. And look at how healthy and tall these plants are. And I'm going to show you in just a minute the difference between these fall sown Bachelors Buttons, and also then I'm going to walk you over to some spring planted blue Bachelors Buttons just to see the huge difference between the two of them. But aren't they beautiful plants? And they just couldn't be easier to grow. Honestly, just throw the seed onto the ground. Okay, so here we are walking down the right side of the border. You know, as I said, this is mid-May of last year. And now we're going to take a look at some spring sown Bachelors Buttons. Look at those guys. You can barely even see them. They're so small. So they're still going to work and they're still going to flower for me, you know, at the right time, you know, for what they are, but so much smaller. And now here we are at the Larkspur on the driveway garden. This is the same date, May 16th, 2019. And look at the growth on them. They're so healthy. They're so robust. They have a great root system going. And by the first week in June, I was picking these guys for bouquets.
So you can see this whole bed is full of big blue larkspur. I planted it once 4 years ago, and it's been here to stay ever since. So really give these hardy annuals a try. There's some calendula in the front there and poppies. Now here we are, June 10th, 2019, and look at that stand, a big blue larkspur. I mean, even if you weren't interested in growing a cutting garden, it's just so beautiful to have all this color in early June, late May. I mean, really, just give it a try.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that walk around the garden with me, seeing my hardy annuals, and also I really hope it brought you joy to see them in bloom in late April, very early May, and that footage was from last season, so I can't wait to show you what things are going to look like this season. All I really have blooming now is forsythia, pussy willow, and daffodils, but I'm very thankful that at least something is blooming, and soon enough these hardy annuals will be cooking and I'll be cutting them and putting them at the stand. And if you want to learn more about hardy annuals, I would really advise to purchase the book called Cool Flowers by Lisa Megan. I don't even know exactly how to say her name, but it's called Cool Flowers. I believe her name is Lisa Mason Ziegler, and that was the book that introduced me to this whole concept. It talks a lot more about different zones, all the different hardy annuals that are out there, and why not support another flower farmer by purchasing her book? Well, until next time, happy gardening. Bye!